りおしまい。
Welcome back, Dragon Ballers, to Get the Mic, the only show where your host on the left, Owl,
And your host on the right, Brock.
dissect fiction for its mythological significance. On this episode, we're talking about Dragon Ball as usual. This episode is number 85, Preliminary Peril. It is kind of going to be a short episode. There's some setups here, but not too much happens as we see a lot of things that we can already kind of guess. As we know, the big menacing brute will probably be defeated by one of our smaller fighters in the preliminary rounds of the tournament.
We've been here before.
But there is some new stuff, so we will touch on that as we get to it. Before we continue, though, give us a like and subscribe if you like what you hear, if you like our channel, like our content, any of that stuff. Please give us a subscribe. We upload Mondays and Thursdays on YouTube and on Rumble Tuesdays and Fridays. We've noticed we've been getting some more traffic recently, so please give us a subscribe, as 95% of our views right now are unsubscribed. So, returning viewers, please do that. Anything else to add, Brock?
No, let's just get right into it.
All right. So the first thing we see is that after all the fighters have arrived, the hierarchies are set for the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, meaning their little divisions, right, where each of them are going to rise to the top. Of course, this time the stakes have already been raised slightly as there's no time limit. Not that we even saw that pan out last time, but it is something to mention that the ref says that even in the preliminaries, all the matches will end decisively. And so it's to say, too, I think that this 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai already, even in the preliminary round where things are pretty low stakes, it's already a leg up, right? And so all our heroes and villains are set into different brackets. And just as Tien notices Goku, he points it out to Chaozu that this is the same boy they fought during the Inashikacho conspiracy.
I like, first of all, that they have to call out that there's more people that have entered, substantially more people that have entered into the preliminaries this year than the last time. They've changed it down to 3 years instead of 5 years. And I think that's really to point out that whenever the hero steps up into the hierarchy and makes himself publicly known, it inspires people to try to take that heroic path as well.
Well, not only that, but the path itself, the human spirit is elevated such that the old limitations are no longer necessary, like the time limit, for example.
Right.
And I agree with you there. I think that is very much the case. And I think, too, the way it works out that none of them fight each other in the preliminaries is not so much like a plot hole or like what do I want to say? Uh Not a coincidence. What am I trying to say? A
It,
contrivance?
yeah, it's not accidental. It's in the same vein as the first Tenkaichi Budokai, where all of the preliminaries were establishing things that we already sort of had learned about the characters, but showing how it was something that they could overcome and that it was necessary for them to be able to participate in the tournament at all, that they had mastered those things.
Right, exactly. And so, um that's kind of what we get at this point, and it's a hierarchy above that hierarchy, right? It's the 22nd, not the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai.
Right.
And so, I think that's a good place to move on. The first thing we see in the preliminaries is Yamcha. I think he's number two, fighter number two. So he's in the very first match. He's the first to fight, and he easily beats his opponent, who breaks some boards before they start fighting. He does not, though, impress Tien. Krillin does well too, even playing with his opponent, pretending that he's struggling in his grasp before throwing him out of the ring. Uh, Yamcha also recognized him as Anton the Great, which is clearly a reference to Andre the Giant, a pro wrestler, right? And so we get to see a little bit of those nods and Easter eggs here that Toriyama's put in. Last thing in this little section is that Goku comments that he's much better than he was 3 years ago.
So I think that it's the way they have it set up. They're doing it in order for the first contestant, and the second one is sort of a longer number out. So I think Yamcha's the first one, and then they call for number two, and that's Krillin, right? Um, Yamcha's fight here, I don't know if there's really much to say about it at all. There's just an intimidating looking guy with a mohawk that tries to do a bunch of flashy stuff. And you could look at it as if it were that guy's equivalent technique to the Wolfang fist, right? He's like, here's the thing where I look cool and I show you the sort of the intimidating nature of my power level. And so he breaks bricks in front of him, and that means nothing to Yamcha. He backhands him.
Yeah, and I think that really the most important thing to say here is how Tien is not impressed by Yamcha, and he thinks that Yamcha is the strongest member of the Turtle School. Those two things are important to mention here at this point, I'd say.
Hmm.
Um, but other than that, you're right. There's not too much to Yamcha's fight. He does blush after it, though. Here, kind of indicating that idea that he is still somewhat not taking this as seriously as he should. He's trained, sure, and now he's soaking in the fact that he is above some of these other fighters instead of kind of humbling himself, which we'll see. We'll see how Goku handles it. Let's say later on,
Right.
or even Tien when we see later in the episode. Yeah, Yamcha kind of blushes and says, "Oh, it was nothing." And then we see Anton the Giant here, Anton the Great. I mean,
Andre the Great.
Andre the Great Giant. And there is a little more to say with Krillin's stuff here. So he is now able to internalize what he learned with Dracula Man, right? He's able to play a different game. And he actually plays into Anton's ego by allowing himself to be grabbed and then crushes that idea by admitting that it's nothing that he can't handle.
Right. That's why he specifically allows himself to be grabbed after Goku tells him, or no, not Goku, but Yamcha tells him not to be caught.
Hmm. Exactly. He wants to show that he has mastered that point, right? He is going to be able to play on their rules, um, which is something Goku is able to do really well. And so last time when he lost to Dracula Man, it's because he wasn't trying to fight a vampire; he was trying to fight a martial artist, right? And this time he
Precisely.
understands
Yeah.
what needs to happen for him to do it, and he throws him out of the ring using his own weight against him as well.
Right. And using his own weight against him, meaning that he's using him taking himself to be as big as he thinks he is, sort of. I guess that's a bad way to say it, but his bigness is symbolic of the largeness of his image,
Hmm.
right? And Krillin saying, "Well, that's not going to defeat me, and I'll make a joke out of your strength, so I can use your bigness to throw you out of this hierarchy."
And that's exactly how he does it, which is, I think, more of why there's something to say about Krillin's fight. And maybe we'll see some fights with Yamcha later. We can talk about that, but I can't remember any right now. So the last thing, like I was saying, Goku comments that Krillin's much better than he was 3 years ago, right? And I think that is to say that he has incorporated a lot more, and especially during his adventures with Goku, with Blue, and with fortune teller Baba's tournament. He has grown a lot, and
Yeah,
that's
I
something
would say he's
he's
learned more humility in that sense, right?
right, and that's something he said last episode was like, "I've grown a lot too," like, and
Hmm.
it's almost it's ironic that it isn't height that he's grown, but he has grown, and not just in width like Yamcha.
Right.
And so they kind of celebrate a little bit, and Tien comes to rain on their parade, stating that only a simpleton would brag about Krillin's victory. Banter is had on both sides as Yamcha steps up to challenge Tien. The situation is finally diffused by Jacky Chun, and meanwhile, the Crane Hermit creeps on Bulma and Launch, eventually causing the latter to fire upon him with her usual armaments. However, the Crane Hermit is able to catch all the bullets and leaves, threatening the lives of the students of the Turtle School. And so we see, I like how they set up both of these scenes back to back because we see Tien's, what do I want to say, Tien's mode of being in this situation versus Crane's. And it's not the same situation, but it's set up to both characterize this and kind of characterize the struggle and how Jackie Chun will play into it. And it kind of gives us like all the pieces on the board now are set for us to get past the preliminaries. We just need to see Tien fight, really.
I like this section right here to really reinforce what we were saying about how the Crane Hermit and his students are a divergence from the mode of being from, let's say, Roshi, right? And it's
Hmm.
sort of a balance where, let's take the situation with Launch for instance. The thing that strikes Roshi down when he creeps is a shame, right? He has a shame for the way that he's acting because he has a respect for those that he's creeping on ultimately, right?
He ultimately does, right? And so he won't
Whereas,
catch those bullets. He'll allow himself to be hit because he knows he deserves it.
right, it's not like Roshi physically couldn't fight Launch or Bulma.
Right, yeah. He
However,
allows
the
himself to
Crane
be
Hermit
slapped, things like that, yeah.
he ogles them as something not to be respected. And whenever they strike back at him, he just uses his prowess to catch their attack back, which is to say that, yeah, I know I'm a creep. I'm intentionally being a creep, and I'll wear it as part of my
And
identity, as a
also
power
kill
I
your
have.
friends,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's very it's a very resentful mode of being that he's embodying, and it's really adopted here by Tien as well, who comes over to kind of stamp out that joy they're having, right?
Yeah,
And not
because
only that,
they're celebrating their advancement not as the strongest fighters in the world, but over the last time they'd seen each other.
and so really he's not right because not a simpleton would not celebrate that. A simpleton may not even understand those types of gains.
Right, a simpleton wouldn't stamp that out in a friend whenever they saw that it was a strength that they had developed.
Right, but just like the Crane Hermit's resentfulness, right, he has to kind of stamp that out. And so when Launch and Bulma are trying to instantiate their independence as women, he stamps that out just the same as Tien tries to stamp out this. And it's so dichotomous. It's really great how we get to see how one has led to the other. And then we're also, it's almost foreshadowed because then Roshi steps in and is like, "No, you can't fight. You'll be disqualified from the tournament," even though they're both ready to go. Him and Yamcha, that
Right,
is.
he's the one to bring back the spirit of the rule and sort of tell them like, here's the logos of your participation here. Here's the purpose for being here, right?
Right. And as much as Tien's blustering, right, like he still walks off. He still accepts that and goes away.
Right, and that's the enlightenment. That's his third eye. That's his ability to see. He knows what the right way is, and he can be forced to acknowledge it.
Hmm. Exactly. And that's kind of how Roshi's going to deal with him going forward.
Right.
So it's definitely foreshadowing for it. And I think that's pretty much all I had to say for that part. Pretty solid, pretty solid. We're cruising now. Finally, Tien is up to fight, and the sumo wrestler he is up against is built up a bit by confirming what Jackie Chun states. Superficial attacks do not work on him, and this what do I want to say? This boxer, this martial artist tries to attack the sumo wrestler, and his fist gets stuck in his fat, classic cartoon style. And then the sumo kind of pushes him away and knocks him into the
He
wall.
palms him in the face.
Palms him in the face, knocks him into the wall, like kills him basically. And so he's set up to be somewhat of a intimidating foe. Maybe not Anton the Great size, but definitely something that should be respected.
Yeah, it's shown that just raw strength isn't something that's actually going to overcome him.
Right. And so when the match begins, we don't even see what Tien does. Just a couple of green little splashes go across the screen, and the sumo wrestler falls just as Tien exits the ring. He doesn't gloat over it. He doesn't even make any ceremony about it. He just leaves.
And then Goku and Krillin call out that they could see what he did.
Yes. And Yamcha could see half or something like that.
Yeah.
Yamcha's like, it was 4 hits. And then Krillin's like, and 2 kicks. Something like that, right?
And of course, Goku always knows.
Yes, and Goku is aware of it, and he's actually very excited because he says he's a wonderful fighter. He's a brilliant fighter. He's an enlightened fighter.
Yeah, real recognizes real. It's the same way that Tien treats Goku as well.
It's true, and that's how he kind of recognized him earlier from the fight with Ina Shikacho.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the last thing we see is that Goku is about to enter his own match when it is revealed that his opponent is a former champion and very formidable, Choppa O, or King Choppa in the dub. And he's built up a little bit by having won a tournament without even having anyone laid a finger on him. And we kind of end on that cliffhanger. There's nothing like it just ends.
Yeah, there's something about number one, the way that he's dressed. It reminds me of Namu, right? From our interaction in the
King
last
Namu,
season.
right?
Yeah, it's like taking that up a hierarchy almost.
Mm-hmm.
And
even though Nam should be here.
well, is he in this
I think he is.
arc? We'll see.
We'll see, yeah.
But it's similar to me in the way that he's sort of this ascetic, right? He appears as an ascetic, where he's got the robe and he seems very he seems like an Eastern martial artist.
He also
in a
bows to
traditional
Goku,
sense.
right? And he says, "I won't kill you." And Goku goes, "Thank you."
Thank you.
And it goes to show that openness that Goku has, and we'll see about King Choppa next time. There's not much else to say about him besides his design.
Yeah.
At this point, and I do like the yellow robes. It's like that Eastern mysticism and royal. And I don't even want to say Eastern. I want to say kind of Indian inspired, right?
Yeah.
Almost Buddhist garb that he also has. Does he have
Buddhist and Hindu as well, right? That sort of that the both Hindu and Buddhist ascetic nature really shows up a lot in Dragon Ball. Not as much in Z, but it's important for Dragon Ball.
Definitely important for Dragon Ball. I want to see this real quick. Yeah, he does have a dot. He does have a Hindu dot right here. And so that is another so it's not really Buddhist, it's really Hindu.
Yeah.
And it's another intonation that he has that enlightenment as well. He's won a tournament too, so he's followed that proper path that he needs to do that.
I guess we should point out that dot being representative of that same type of enlightenment that Tien's eye is representative
Tien actually has.
Exactly.
It's not just a dot.
It's not ceremonial.
Right. It's real. And that's why Tien is able to so easily conquer the sumo wrestler. And it's all kind of spelled out. But right, I think we'll get to King Choppa next time.
Yeah.
I think it's a good place to kind of wrap up. Anything else you had to say?
No, I think this was a pretty simple episode, but it's definitely important to sort of point out the thematic through line to it.
I agree, but I think like most of these Tenkaichi Budokai episodes, we're gonna kind of go short in the beginning, and then get longer and longer.
Oh yeah, they're gonna get long for sure.
So, be prepared for that. But we're glad you guys are watching. We hope you give us a like. If you enjoyed what you heard, give us a subscribe because we release new episodes Mondays and Thursdays on YouTube, Tuesdays and Fridays on Rumble. Give us a subscribe as well over there. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you have to say, whether you agree, disagree. We just love to hear your input. I'm your host on the left, Owl.
I'm your host on the right, Brock.
And we hope you guys have a good rest of your night.
Oh, there it is. It's about time.